In this month's episode of Speak Out and Play, I will talk about the projects I'm working on right now, what videos are coming up for the month of January 2024, what I've been playing, we'll visit the Warfighter Corner, and more, all on Speak Out and Play. Hello and welcome to Speak Out and Play, a monthly podcast for the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel. A new video is uploaded every Wednesday. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, X, and Facebook pages. Plus, if you want to support my efforts on YouTube, you can visit my Patreon page as well. Well, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. It's been a wonderful year at Seek Out and Play. I've got to play some new games, create videos for the games you enjoy, and generally just relax as the holiday season is upon us. Winter has come to northeast Oklahoma, where I live, which means that the temperatures are in the brisk 50s and drop to the 30s at night for the most part. It probably doesn't sound that cold compared to where many other people live, but we do have the occasional tornado, high winds, earthquakes, and the like that rattle the area. Welcome to Oklahoma. But enough about my state. What's going on at Seek Out and Play for the following month? Currently, I'm playing a few games, and I'm in the planning stages for creating videos for the fall of 2024. As I've mentioned in previous podcasts, I shoot the videos well in advance, and the videos themselves are of the timeless variety. So if I shoot a video on a recently acquired game, I can move that previous video that I make back to another day. The plan this time is to shoot a batch of videos each month starting in mid-January. So hopefully I'll be done with all 20 videos for the fall by the Ides of March. This is a change from my previous method of scripting, creating audio tracks, and then shooting videos over the course of 4 to 6 weeks. I'm not sure what I gain by taking this longer approach, but perhaps I can get more consistent quality out of the videos that I'm creating. And besides, taking a new approach does shake things up, which keeps making videos fresher and more alive for me. And for a little word to those who create videos out there, shaking things up is a good thing. It keeps you from falling into that rut which leads to quitting, and nobody likes a quitter. Shooting videos can be quite tedious at times, so even if this approach doesn't pan out for me, at least it will be different. And if it works out, I'll probably adopt this strategy from now on, shooting a few videos each month so that I no longer have to shoot several videos at one time. As far as any secret projects going on, I can say that yes, I am working on a video for a game company. It is still in the early stages, but I'm assuming that the Kickstarter will happen pretty quickly. I'll admit, I was a little surprised by the game title. I had not heard about it before, but I am looking forward to creating the video. So right now, at the time of this recording, I've already done the scripting for it. I've already laid down the audio tracks for it, and now I'm getting the material so I can shoot it, and hopefully it'll be done before Christmas. So now let's talk about what's coming up for January of 2024 on Seek Out and Play. The first video of the new year focuses on Freezing Inferno by Princeps Games. In the video will be a presentation of the turn sequence so that new players can better understand how the game is played. This will also inform those who have yet to purchase the game about the structure of each turn, the components involved, and the focus of the Winter War conflict. Let's get started as part of a series of videos to help new players better understand the turn sequence so they can jump into the game. For the second Wednesday of the new year, Seek Out and Play is presenting a video about the Universal Rulebook of the Warfighter game system. While the Universal Rulebook will be discontinued in future editions, players can gain a better understanding of the current rulebook in terms of how to look up important information. The video is designed to help new players and those already familiar with the Warfighter system. The video is designed to be short, to the point, and provide a starting point so that you can look up important rules questions. For the third Wednesday in January, Seek Out and Play presents a video about the combat and retreat rules in Britannia by PSC Games. The video covers the basics of combat, retreats, and where units can and cannot move during a retreat. The video presents the examples found in the rulebook so you can better visualize how the units behave during this phase of the game. Britannia is a multiplayer game that focuses on the history of Britain from the Roman invasion of 43 AD to the Norman conquest of 1066. For the fourth Wednesday in January, Seek Out and Play presents our Blast from the Past video series. This time I present the special skills and dynamite rules from Avalon Hill's out-of-print classic, Gunslinger. Based on the optional rule number 6, the video covers the rules for Sharp Eyes, Eagle Eyes, and how dynamite works, which usually starts with a big boom. Gunslinger is one of many out-of-print games presented in the Blast from the Past series. Check out more videos on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel. I also post new videos and announcements on my Facebook and X pages. Plus, if you want to support my efforts to improve the channel, you can visit my Patreon page as well. Seek Out and Play releases a new video each week, so I will see you next Wednesday. In today's table segment, I want to talk a bit about Thermopylae, The Hot Gates by DVG. I have created a video about the game, which will be a how-to play, and it'll be released on the first Wednesday in February. The game is part of the Heroic Stand series, which also includes Rorke's Drift and the Alamo. As of this day, I'm recording the podcast. The games are not available to the public, but they have been sent to the Kickstarter backers. I've received Thermopylae a few weeks ago, and I've played it probably about 20 times. It's relatively fast-playing and based on a simple concept. It's not a traditional war game, that's for sure. The game is built around Spartan and Persian card decks and can be played solo or multiplayer with everyone playing the Greeks. What makes the game replayable is not so much changes or options in strategy, but rather finding a balance between having enough Spartan army cards to defeat the Persians without drawing too much from the deck so that you allow the Persians to flank your forces and win. I talk about all this in the video that I created for the game, which again is to be scheduled to be released the first Wednesday of February. I've also played a few other games as well, because it's that time of year that I have a little more time to do things like that. But let's move on to the DVG game that everybody loves, Warfighter. In today's Warfighter Corner, the big news from DVG is the announcement that a new Warfighter core set will be built around the science fiction work of David Gerrold. Warfighter Ch'Tor promises to be on Kickstarter along with several expansions in early 2024. I only know what's been released by DVG about this at the time of this recording. The new core set is based on the war against the Ch'Tor, which is currently a 4-series novel that is set in a dystopian future in which most of the world's population has been wiped out by a mysterious virus. The Ch'Tor, a race of insect-like beings, take advantage and start their invasion of Earth. What makes this a little different is that the invasion is not like a single massive invasion like you see in War of the Worlds or in films like Independence Day. This is a much more slower and gradual takeover. In fact, most of the world remains unaware or unconcerned, given the horrors of the recent plague, about what's happening with the Ch'Tor. So the novels are an ever-growing series of challenges for the humans as different life forms start to appear and take over the Earth. Author David Gerrold is probably best known for writing the script to the classic Star Trek episode The Trouble with Tribbles. He also created the Slee Stack for the Saturday morning live-action series Land of the Lost. There are new books that are planned for the War Against the Ch'Tor series, but I don't know the release date for those new books. From what I understand of the novels, this does seem to be a perfect setting for a Warfighter core set. A growing enemy that offers different challenges but set in modern times. Given that the Kickstarter date is going to be within a few months, I would think that there might be some additional rules to the basic game, but probably not that many. I can't be sure of that, but that's the impression that I get, that this is going to follow along the lines mostly of the core rule set. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. What I can say is that DVG does have several games that are going to be coming out for 2024, which includes a new entry to the Valiant Defense series, which is set on Guadalcanal. There's also another addition to the Leader series, which may be released early next year as well. Again, I can't say, they don't tell me everything, so I only know what I read on the Facebook pages and the various releases by DVG. In other Warfighter news, the Universal Rulebook will be ditched. That means that future editions of Warfighter, which may start with the Chittor core set, will have a dedicated rulebook. This follows the pattern that's set by Warfighter Fantasy, which also has a dedicated rulebook. I think ultimately this is a good thing in my view. I have defended the Universal Rulebook in part because looking up the rules is not that difficult in my view. If you noticed in my Coming Attraction segment, I do have a video that's coming out next month about the Universal Rulebook. So timing is everything, isn't it? I get the video ready to go, and boom, they drop the Universal Rulebook. I actually thought about getting rid of the video altogether, but because the Universal Rulebook will be around for a while, I thought it was better to just get the video out now than not at all. I've defended the Universal Rulebook not because I think that it's the best format to present the rules, but in the sense that it is organized well enough to answer many rules questions that I see in places like the Warfighter Facebook page and other forums. I mean, for me, it generally takes less than a minute to find an answer based on a question that I see from people as I search through the rules. Now, obviously, there are exceptions, but for the most part, the rule book is designed in such a way that looking up the answers is not that difficult. Now, I know that other people may not share that view, but for me, I would say a good 90% plus of the questions that I've answered, I've been able to find in about a minute or less. So that's always a good thing. Where the Universal Rulebook does come up short, however, is in teaching the game. Now, presenting rules that are properly organized and teaching the game are two different things. Many of us who grew up with a case system that highlighted many rule books back in the golden era of war games in the 1970s understands that such a system is great for finding a rule, but maybe not so great for teaching a game. Of course, we've learned from the case system how to play the game, but for many newcomers, the case system is just gobbledygook. It's not presented in a way that teaches the game in a comprehensible manner, at least for people who are probably 35 and under. This represents a real barrier to those who may be interested in card and board wargaming, but simply can't make sense of what to them is like a foreign language. Imagine taking an 8-track and, handing it to somebody today and say, hey, play this thing on your player. That's kind of what it's like. Now, I've seen the opposite end of the spectrum from board games like Fortune and Glory. In that case, the rule book is designed in such a way that I understood the concepts of the game right away. In fact, I started playing in the first few minutes. I was stunned at how easy it was to grasp the concepts of a game like Fortune and Glory, which you've seen it. It's a pretty big game. But when it came to a rules question, well, that turned out to be a bigger quest than any of the adventures that the game presented. Fortune and Glory is legendary for having such an obtuse rule book in terms of looking up answers to basic rules questions. And just to go off on a tangent, before I launched Seek Out and Play, I was seriously considering balancing the channel between Warfighter and games like Fortune and Glory. And that's because somebody created a living rules set for Fortune and Glory, and I was thinking about creating videos which fully explained the game and answered many of the rules questions. Now, that didn't happen because the game company just stopped supporting the game. Back in 2018, the company was supposed to release 2 new expansions, one of which was designed to straighten out the temple rules. Anyone familiar with the game can understand the confusion that the temple rules present. So based on that, when the expansion came out, that was going to be probably my first video. But as of right now, 6 years later, neither expansion has been released, and it's probably not going to happen. It just seems like the game company gave up on Fortune and Glory, so I gave up deciding to put it on my channel. Anyway, getting back to Warfighter, a dedicated rule book does solve the difficulty of having material for other core sets get in the way of finding answers or learning how the game is played. It's not going to solve every issue because the game itself has a flexible turn sequence in that during the turn you can move, attack, play cards, and do a number of other things in any order you desire. I've seen that create some confusion as many wargamers are used to a fixed turn system. Another issue is the sheer number of keywords, which can be looked up, but sometimes people mistake reference words for keywords. So what's a reference word? Well, if you don't know, a reference word is a word that applies only when it is referenced. That seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? For example, when you see nature on a location card, that is a reference word. It means nothing unless it is referenced by the mission card, such as you cannot play nature cards. Otherwise, it doesn't have any meaning at all. It's a little thing, but I've seen plenty of questions arise because of reference words, because new players stop what they're doing when they see it, and thinking that it plays an important role in the game, they start looking through everything to find out what it means, when it actually doesn't mean anything at all unless it's referenced by the mission card. So, that's kind of an example right there of why Warfighter to me is not complex. There's just a lot of stuff, and it's always difficult to remember all the stuff. And so when it comes to searching for rules, and again, the video I've made for the Universal Rulebook covers this, it's just best to start with the basics. Is your question about a word on a card? Well, there's the keyword sheet. Is it about something in the turn sequence? Well, look up the turn sequence. And it usually can be found, fairly easily. But then again, what do I know? And speaking of what I know, let's go ahead and proceed to do a little tech talk for this edition of Speak Out and Play. And the amount of tech talk I have is not a whole lot. Creating new videos doesn't always require purchasing new equipment like I did last time, where I got a new lens filter and some lens rings, which I know that you all are all excited about hearing about. What I can say for those that are thinking about starting a YouTube channel is you should first decide what approach you're going to take and then purchase the equipment necessary to make that approach work for you. So, for example, if you're going to sit in front of the camera and talk, then obviously you'll need a microphone that plugs straight into your camera so you can speak and be heard clearly. You'll also need a light or two so that you can be seen. Now, if you're like me and you're behind the camera and you show the game board, well, then obviously you need a table. You need lights so that people can see what you're pointing at, and probably a tripod so you can move the camera around and show different parts of that game board. It depends on what approach you take. But for me, it's about the lighting. You never can have too many lights, especially spotlights and lights that highlight areas of the board, game boxes, and so forth. So this new year is going to bring some new lights, and hopefully I can better balance the video between light and dark so that it retains its colors while not being too dark. I mean, one of the issues that I've run into was thinking it looked okay in the camera, and then I shoot it and I get it out on YouTube, and it's like, that just looks so muddy. And that's because I just didn't light it properly. So hopefully I'll be able to take care of that issue, and we'll see where we go from there. So for the videos that I plan on shooting in January, I'm going to be adding some more lights. I've got an RGB light that I'm looking at purchasing, and that's going to be mostly for the background to free up other lights so then I can show you what I'm shooting. And that will be for another day. And that is it for this edition of Speak Out and Play, the last podcast for 2023. I hope you all enjoy the holiday season and get everything that you want. I will see you each and every Wednesday for the upcoming year, along with this monthly podcast. Be sure to check out my Facebook and X pages, and if you want to support the channel, I have a Patreon page as well. See you next time on Speak Out and Play, and if you see Sally, bring her all the way home.